There we go. Let's get Facebook in here and we can start the show. Rocking and rolling. We're doing it. Wheel spinning. 1 and 2. All right. Welcome in. Welcome in. It is Friday morning, Friday the 13th. Ooh, spooky. I am Nick Kendall, joined by Eric Trickle. This is Broncos for breakfast. Happy Friday, Eric. Asked you how we're kind of doing to start, but how you doing? What's good? Appreciate you, buddy. I know that it's 4:30 a.m. Alaska time, so you're a monster. I like to brag about I'm an early riser, but when I was doing the 5:30 a.m. two shows back to back, but 4:30 is a different beast. So shout out to you. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. But I wouldn't say I'm up normally at this time anyways. A lot of times I'm just now getting to sleep, dealing with insomnia and not being able to get the medication I need for that. It stinks, but it is what it is. And I'm here and during this time of year, I'm pretty much up early anyways. Gotta get that draft stuff in. And in fact, I was actually up a little bit earlier today because had to get some tape watched on a couple players and working on some stuff for that. But I'm doing good. I'm excited. It's been a while since we've been here. I haven't done a show since not this last Monday, but the Monday before, because last Friday we both had stuff coming up. This Monday, we had stuff going on, and
Stick out of
then
my
last
mind.
Friday I didn't do the Friday night show because it was not only was it your birthday, and happy late birthday to you, even though I said it was also my mother's birthday. So they came over and it was the opening ceremony for the Olympics. And I absolutely love the Olympics. And it's always a thing in my family that we watch the opening ceremony together. So we ended up doing that and having a good time with my mom for her birthday.
Yeah, I do love the Winter Olympics. We in my would have been the 2002 Olympics. I think that have been Salt Lake City. Each of our elementary room classes had was assigned a sport, and a lot of the Olympic sports are pretty cool. And mine was assigned curling, but I just leaned into it, and I was like, this is the best. I mean, and now I'm an adult. There's curling leagues. There was one actually not too far from me in Seattle, up in northern Seattle area, and busy with other things. But if I'd have stayed there long enough, I think I might have joined eventually. It seems like a good time, and I know it's pretty popular in Canada because they had a lot of liquor laws on Sundays and stuff for alcohol laws, but not in the curling clubs. So they gather there and have a good time, and it's kind of I'm very partial to bags or cornhole, whatever you want to call it, and it's kind of like the glacial version of cornhole or bags. Obviously, I think there's more skill involved than bags, but you can play it sometimes with a drink in your hand, which I do appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love curling. I ever since I was a little kid, um, it's always been that one. I remember I was in sixth, seventh, eighth grade, somewhere around there. And it was, I can't remember where the Olympics were at, but it was one where they were showing them live. And it's not like now where you had streaming and you can go back and watch the events. It was you either woke up in time to watch it. I remember waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning one time just so I could watch the gold medal match for curling. And I have always loved that sport. It's one I've also looked into it. There's a curling club here where I live.
Do it.
It's just expensive and I can't afford it, unfortunately. But when I was working security, there was a gal who would come in who was part of it, and her and I we would spend quite a while just talking about curling, much to everyone's else
chagrin.
lack of amusement.
Yeah,
because they don't get curling and they didn't find it entertaining. But I absolutely loved it. I still love it. I love 90% of the Olympic sports in both winter and summer.
it is a good time. I have to ask? It went viral. Did you see the guy who hit his manhood and screamed out? It's been a viral meme. You know what I'm talking about?
And
Skiing. It was downhill. He hit one of the flags right in his
oh yeah, that
either.
was a while ago.
Okay, I mean, we
It,
haven't talked in a bit, but that
yeah,
one, God,
or
man.
the no, I mean I don't think it was this Olympics. I think it was in a previous
Oh, I'm
competition.
talking about one that just happened, I think.
Oh no, there's one that happened a few years ago that's gone viral, and then you had the best thing from this Olympics is the guy who admitted to cheating on his girlfriend,
Bronze medal winner. Yeah,
bronze medal winner
crazy.
during that.
Yeah. Also really impressed with the guy who did the uphill cross country, whatever that
Oh my
was.
god,
Yeah,
sub 6 minute mile pace going uphill on skis, phenomenal.
different. I mean, it's really incredible to see what the human body can do. But we're here to talk about football. It's a good time. You guys let us know in the chat what you love as far as Olympics go or anything like that. They're all amazing. Let's say hello to everybody. We got Daniel Berry Sports coming in. Happy Friday. Hey, everyone. Hey to you, Daniel. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you coming in here. We got our guy Dave Glassman in the house too. Says happy Friday the 13th. Eric, you a horror movie guy?
No.
No? Okay. You're more of a Care Bear kind of, Dora the Explorer.
I like horror movies that are more of the suspense and thriller
Yeah.
type and not the hack 'em slash 'em type.
Yeah, that makes sense. I saw Studio A24 got the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so we'll see how that goes. But Keith coming in here says, good morning, fellas. Been up since 5:30 myself, and it's 7:34 in Kansas. Well, good morning. Good morning. Good to have you in here. Mike Thompson, hey, friends. I'm always up. I got kids. My kid has started to wake up at 5:30 a.m. here in the last week. For a while, he was sleeping until like 6:30, 6:50, and now he's like, you know what? No. So we're doing well. He got a haircut yesterday. He's big, man. He's a big kid. He looks like a 3-year-old. Everybody's like, oh, what is he, like 3.5? Like, he just turned 2. You got to be kidding me. No, he's a big one. Good to see you, Mike. We got our guy Mark coming in here down there in Texas, Katy, Texas. Mark, how you doing? Says good morning, Nick and Eric. Appreciate you coming up. We got David Youngkin. David, happy to hear you're doing healthy. Hopefully you're still out of the hospital and everything's going okay, but always love you coming in and saying hello. Ronald Samples coming in here with an interesting logo. What's going on here? Orange Rush. Okay, got his own little personal logo there. Kind of cool. Thank you, Ronald. Good to see you. He says hi. Morning to Sentinel Supreme coming in here. Good morning, gents. And Shades 10 coming in here. Good morning, y'all. Good morning to you, Shades. Appreciate you so much. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of our favorite potential free agents. Today, I love this for Eric. He hops on. He's like, what the heck are we talking about? So here we go. And maybe have some time also to run a mock draft simulator if we are good with our time and everything. But we want to get your guys' questions as well. Make sure you click the thumbs up. We got Mark Schrader. God bless you, Mark, over on Facebook doing it. You guys over on YouTube can't see it, but I know that you all have. Click the thumbs up and subscribe, like, and share. But we got Keith coming in saying his favorite free agency target would be George Pickens, the very young, unbelievably talented wide receiver from the University of Georgia, goes to Pittsburgh, traded to Dallas last season, and boy, howdy, he was awesome last year with CD, pairs well with CD Lamb, and really, really talented, good X receiver. Not necessarily the biggest body. He's not like the 6'4", 220 guy, but boy, he plays as big as anybody at wide receiver. So George Pickens, what do you think, Eric?
Unfortunately, he's not hitting the free agent market to where Denver can just go sign him. It's come out that the Dallas Cowboys will tag him when the franchise tag window opens. Not sure what tag they'll place on him. There are a few different tags that they could, but it also came with the report that just because they tag him doesn't mean they won't be open to trading him. So it would be a situation where Denver would have to work out an extension with him and the trade details with the Dallas Cowboys for it, which makes it a little bit rougher to do because it's just a little bit more. Not only do you have to give that big contract with all that money to him, you have to turn around and trade for him and give up that draft capital as well for it. And they're probably looking for at least 30 and more for it. Probably another first round pick in there to move on from him. They don't seem overly inclined to part ways with him in the first place, even by trade with the franchise tag. So I'm not sure. And he's probably one of those receivers that you're probably talking about having to pay top money, if not basically reset the receiver market by paying him with how much that there's been rumors of him asking for of nearly 40 million on average per year basis. So it's been the rumor. So I don't know. If you weren't having to trade for him, I'd be a little bit more willing for it. If that 40 million a year rumor was correct, but trading for it and having to pay that much, if it's correct, I think I would pass.
It's okay. It's okay. No worries. Yeah, it'd be fine. Sorry, I got a text from my mom also. So I was like, what the heck are you even talking about? I had a work dinner last night, but yeah, Pickens, I'm with you. It's fine. The Broncos won't get him. Would you trade for him personally? Give up 30 plus the contract? It's just a hard sell. You don't have the negotiation power as much as trading for some other guys. Would I call? Probably. I'm calling, but I'm calling on everybody, picking up the phone. So I would love Pickens, but we'll see. And we have to ask. I mean, the elephant in the room is Pickens' antics, I guess we'll say. Does that concern you as all? I know there's some people who are absolutely no to Pickens, absolutely no to AJ Brown for some of the stuff that's happened. For me personally, I think this locker room is strong enough, and Sean Payton is enough of a players coach. I mean, he's old school, but like, he's still he's not like letting them get away with stuff. He's old school, but like they do like him. I mean, it seems like so, and he's dealt with some personalities. Let's just put it that way at wide receiver. So I'm not as worried about that personally now. If he's the Rashee Rice, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs type, maybe not as interested. Even though Denver tried with Stephon Diggs last year, guys, but AJ Brown and George Pickens, that doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah, I mean AJ Brown, obviously not a free agent, would have to trade for him, and I'd be a little bit more inclined to do that. His stuff is that he just likes to take to Twitter and complain a little bit and be a little bit more vocal. George Pickens is a little bit rougher. There were reports coming out of Pittsburgh that part of the reason why I trade him is because he actually punched his wide receivers coach, as well as trying to start fights pretty consistently in the locker room and on the field on the sidelines during a game. He tried to attack one of the coaches. So it's a little bit rough with Pickens because of that. It's actually physical altercations happening. And I don't think Sean Payton has exactly dealt with that. He has dealt with the prima donna vocalization aspect of it with Michael Thomas. That's what he would do. He would just go and talk and do interviews and kind of be a little bit of a butthead on the sidelines and everything, but nothing physical would happen. I would think though that, as you said, the locker room in Denver is strong enough. I think they could handle that and keep him chill. I also think that he's got a pretty good friendship with Cortland Sutton as well. I would think that would also help a little bit with keeping him in check. But
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it's physical with George Pickens just makes me a little bit more hesitant to go through and do that trade and that big contract. Though, as you said, I would still call because I'm calling on everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, one that coming in from Keith again, Mike Evans. He's old, still a good player. For me, Mike Evans doesn't make as much sense for the Broncos unless you're planning on moving on from Cortland Sutton, because Cortland Sutton's essentially just an X at this point. We're not really seeing him utilize big slot or at Z. Now, granted, Denver didn't also have necessarily all the body types for that this season available. The ones he did was Pat Bryant, and he had some injuries and also getting up to speed with everything. But I'm not as interested in Mike Evans for the build of this team right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he can still play.
Yeah.
I think there's still enough gas in the tank where he can probably give you another 2, 3, maybe 40 years. But you're going to start seeing that decline. We kind of saw it a little bit this year. His body, he didn't play a full season, only played like 35% of the snaps in total for Baltimore or for the Buccaneers. And so his body, he's older. I think he's going to be 34 or just turned 33, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit rough, but I just think in terms of Denver, as you said, he doesn't really fit with what Denver's needing. He's just rather redundant with what you already have in Cortland Sutton. And I would rather just stick with Cortland Sutton because you kind of have to. You don't have any way out of his contract this year.
Yeah. Good person, and hoping that he can work on those drops a bit this season. I think Sutton's been harangued a little bit too much sometimes. He's definitely one of the top 25 wide receivers in football over the last 3 years, but he's not that no doubt build the ship around type of weapon that would be nice to have. Now, granted, I say this all the time, but like teams also are like, I wish I had, Nick Benito on my defensive line or a Patrick Surtain in my secondary. It's like, yeah, no duh. So it's always easier said than done, but Denver has definitely been hurting for that, no doubt, number one offensive weapon since, gosh, would you say 2016? Maybe DT when he was at that level, probably 2016, maybe the last year of that. I get my years mixed up a bit, but he was still pretty damn good in 2016. Rest in peace, DT. We got Jim 7847 coming in saying, morning, fellas, checking in from the UK. Well, good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you coming in and saying hello from across the pond. JB coming in says, excited for the quad god during Olympic free skating today. Eric will know what you're talking about. Me, not so much. But that's okay. I like watching people go fast on ice, so that's a good time.
What about backflips on ice?
God bless them. It sounds like a recipe to break your neck, but that's I heard you get no extra points for that. Maybe, or there's like, I don't know.
No, you do now. It's
Okay.
actual. Well, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think you get points for it, but at the same time, you do. They explained it during one of the things for it. I know that it was banned for the longest time, and they pushed for it, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure if you actually get points for it because in the same broadcast they were talking about how you don't, and then said that you do. So I don't know.
I don't know. Tony comes in and says, I like Kirk as a bargain signing. He must be talking about Christian Kirk. I don't know if he's a free agent, honest to God. But that must be because you're not talking about Kirk Cousins. I wouldn't imagine. So Christian Kirk, I mean, he got that kind of funny, ridiculous contract from the Jags, 4 years ago now. Everybody's like, what the heck? But explosive plays kill. I do wonder if he kind of falls into the same bucket. Like, why pay Kirk when you have Mims and Troy Franklin already? But maybe you ship somebody off. Who knows? What do you think about Christian Kirk?
Well, he's expected to be a free agent because his contract voids, but odds are the Texans will work something out with him because if his contract voids, that's almost $12 million in dead cap space that they have to eat for him to not play elsewhere. So I'm fully expecting them to work something out to extend him and avoid that $12 million dead cap hit with him because of how they structured that contract. If they don't, and he does hit a free agent and they're willing to hit that, take that 12 million dead, I'd be fine with it. I think there's enough variance with what you're getting out of Franklin and Mims and Kirk that you can make it work and still have a varied passing game between them. The biggest issue I have is I don't think Christian Kirk moves the needle enough to where you eat snaps away from Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, and Marvin Mims as you're trying to get them to develop into being, legitimate wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s, so on. When right now they're just wide receiver 4s and 5s, really. And so if you're getting that guy, I think it needs to be a little bit more of a needle mover than somebody like Kirk is.
Well, it's moving the needle right now is Deanna Hendry coming in with a $50 super chat. Hell yeah. Sorry for that word bothers you, but heck yeah. Deanna, thank you so much. Good morning. Who's your dream wide receiver 1 and running back 1? My opinion, we need a beast running back. Good morning, all. Go Broncos. Yeah, luckily, it's kind of similar situation as last season, and it didn't work out ideally for the Broncos, but running back was something that this team obviously needed. And while I've been talking with my buddy Noel, you might know him from Twitter. He's big Bronco fan, but he's been like in my DMs a lot saying Denver needs to trade up for Love, running back out of Notre Dame, and I'm like, listen, I would love here, no pun intended. I think he's better than Ashton Genty. I mean, he's awesome receiver and he's an explosive play waiting to happen. I think he comes into the league. It's always depends on the offensive line and stuff, but one of the top 7 talented backs immediately. But it's a discussion about team building and scarcity and the economics of the position. There are running backs available, and we can look at the free agency names right now. And that's not even normally the best path. The best path is to draft and replenish, but Denver's in a unique situation with their window and a down running back draft class. So probably should spend, but I don't think it'd be a wise investment. What I love on this team, oh my God, yes, abso-freaking-lutely. He'd be awesome. Somebody that you could build the boat out of for the next 4 years on this offense, truly. But giving up multiple first-round picks and then paying him that much on that contract as well, I mean, I just don't think it's a smart team-building move personally. So I think my dream running back, assuming everything works out, I have a couple, but it's probably Breece Hall, just because he can work between the tackles somewhat, and he's explosive and a well-rounded back. Now, medicals are going to be huge for him, but I think he is supremely talented. I mean, if you guys saw him, what he did against the Broncos a couple times, I think back-to-back years there, he was awesome. So I love Breece Hall. I think he's not as obviously dynamic, but Tyler Algier would be amazing as well as just a compliment and an innings eater. I think he's extremely underrated. Is he going to be, a top 5 back in the league? No, but I think he can come in and really be effective for your offense and match as well with Harvey as well. So, and that also gives you a runway to still have Harvey be a huge part of the offense, depending on how he develops going forward. So, I love those two. My wide receiver one option, I mean, God, I would love to trade for Justin Jefferson, or Drake London would be unbelievable as well. I don't know how realistic those guys are, so I'd probably lean. I think I'm talking myself into AJ Brown here, but I'd be curious again how he matches up with the offense, considering Cortland Sutton's almost purely an X right now. So do you move on from Sutton? Like how do you exactly rotate those guys? Because I know that Sean Payton last season, all this talk about like where these guys fit and whatnot, but like the snaps are the snaps, right? Like where you're playing is where you're playing. And I think Sutton was like 80% on the perimeter, and I think AJ Brown's kind of close to that as well. So I would love both those guys. We'll see.
Yeah, in terms of running back, I have Brees Hall's obviously like the dream guy, right? Like he's
Even
the
more
one
than
that
Walker, because Walker's in the conversation too. Or are you just assuming that he's back?
I think he's back. I don't think he's going to hit the open market. I think that they get a deal done before the end of this month. So I don't think he even gets close to it. If he does, then Kenneth Walker is obviously up there with it. But in working under the assumption it gets extended by Seattle, Brees Hall is obviously the dream. But the medicals and his fumble history, it kind of scares me a little bit. And then for Denver, who Sean Payton particularly has made a big deal about blocking from the running back position, Brees Hall is god awful as a blocker. And so like that raises questions for me in terms of Denver. Tyler Algier, I think, offers just a little bit more, adds that power element, isn't obviously as explosive a player, not going to be a guy in that conversation for top 5, as you said, but he can really work with what they need, and he can really wear down those defenses and allow somebody back like RJ Harvey to try to capitalize off that if RJ Harvey can improve in the areas he needs to, particularly as a runner. So the guy that I actually want the most for the running back room is Tyler Algier, even over Brees Hall. I don't think he'll cost as much, and I think he just is a much better fit for what the Broncos really do need from that primary back from them, and then using really regulating RJ Harvey to being that rotational back. And then wide receiver, AJ Brown, I think actually does make a lot of sense with what he does and where he lines up. He is another one, as you said, it's about 87%, 87.6 as I actually look it down and see the number on him for where he played. And that's 87.6% of the time out wide. And so you do have that issue with it. I just think that the way AJ Brown wins is different enough from Cortland Sutton that you can still move one of those guys around and still have an effective offense from them. It's not the same. Basically, it's not the same route tree that they're running. I mean, AJ Brown, he can run those digs, which is the Cortland Sutton specialty, really. But you get a little bit more of that actual good slot or slant work from Brown than you do with Sutton. Sutton has really struggled to be an effective slant receiver on those, and that's something that Sean Payton absolutely loves. So I still really do like AJ Brown, but in terms of pure free agent wide receiver, somebody you don't have to trade for, AJ Brown expected to be traded for, still under contract with the Eagles. Romeo Dubs, that's the guy that I'm really eyeballing for it. I know a lot of people want Alec Pierce, but it came out this morning a little bit, not long before we went live, that he's asking for nearly $30 million on an average per year basis. Look, he's great. I mean, the fact that he had over 20 yards per reception is absolutely fantastic. I still just have a lot of concerns about if he can be more than just that, deep threat for it. And he had a little bit of issues with that with his time with the Colts this last year, even before Daniel Jones went down. So I really like Romeo Dubs and what he can bring. He's tough. He's a lot more physical. He's not the biggest receiver, but he plays big. He can make some great catches, very reliable hands. Like he's just that guy that I think come in and looking at reliability. That's it. And I do think that he is a little bit more of a needle mover to where you can take in eating those snaps of Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, Barb Mims as you're trying to develop them than, some of the other guys that we've talked about. Alec Pierce, obviously, he's another one of those. AJ Brown, like those are all guys that can move that needle enough to eat those snaps. I think Romeo Dubs is one of those is very under the radar in this free agent wide receiver class.
I'm with you. We got Adele coming in from Brussels. Awesome. Good to see you over there across the pond in Belgium. Beautiful country. Awesome people. Shout out to you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Yeah, I had a really good time when I visited Brussels. Keith also asking Jalen Waddle. AJ Brown and Jalen Waddle seem to be the most likely moved guys, and Denver is going to be in on them. Now, granted, there's going to be competition. The Steelers really need a wide receiver, and the Bills obviously need a wide receiver as well. So those are two teams that you're going to be competing against, but they don't really have the cash that the Broncos do as well. And I don't think they have as much as a flexibility. And they also have more holes than the Broncos do. Like the Bills can go get a wide receiver, but like your defense is still going to be bottom 10 talent wise in the league then. So like, do you want to be that team, especially with how their offense is built right now? Like, do you want to have Josh Allen dropping back 50 times a game? I'd rather maybe protect him with more defense in the offensive line personally, but that's just me. We'll see how it plays out with all of that. Did want to say hello to JB wants Garrett Wilson. He's another one. I haven't heard as much of his name. I don't know
He just signed an extension.
he did a year ago, but then he was there's a bit of talk about him this offseason. Or not this offseason, this trade deadline as it approached. So I think he probably won't be moved as well, but maybe he's one that, let's say Eric, I mean, luckily for the Broncos, just kind of how it is. Like you have this offseason, but you have names and youth at wide receiver right now. Let's say you miss out on wide receiver, but you really improve the running back and the tight end position. You're going to have another chance before the trade deadline to be back in the market again, and probably with these teams that you've already discussed what capital would look like. So just because they don't walk away with a number 1 or a top 20 kind of wide receiver in this offseason cycle doesn't necessarily mean they won't still acquire that guy over the course of next season. So it's always good to keep in mind as well. Shades comes in. What are your thoughts about getting another high-level wide receiver too? Brian Thomas Jr., another name out there. He's also another pure X. I don't know about the fit there. Chris Godwin just signed that contract. He also missed a lot of time last season. I love Godwin when he's healthy, but I don't know where he's at right now with that team. So yeah, Denver needs to go out there and try to find weapons, no doubt. Shiloh, good to see you coming in here. Kyle asking about Marvin Harrison Jr. That's an interesting one. I have not heard much. I would assume, considering it's a new regime coming in there at Arizona, they're going to give it a go for a season with him. But yeah, he's been a huge disappointment. I mean, he's probably been the most disappointing player drafted in the top 10 of that pretty good 2024 draft class.
Yeah, real quick, I want to go back to Garrett Wilson because you mentioned the stuff at the deadline. That was reasonable because at that point his extension hadn't really hit. He wasn't gossing a lot against the dead money. His extension has actually hit now.
Oh, interesting.
And he signed his extension in July. It's $35 million in dead cap space for them to trade him.
Wow.
Or sorry, $11 million. I didn't click over on. They're not trading him. Not to eat $11 million more on the books. 11 million, which is more than what they paid him. They're not trading Garrett Wilson at this point. But because of when they did the extension and when it hit, it was reasonable that they could trade him before it and then try to get another team on it. But they made it very clear almost right away that they weren't trading him. And then with the Bills, you mentioned the Bills with Jalen Waddle. There's been some reports that was very much a McDermott decision of wanting to do that, and he kind of was pushing them, which led to some of the friction there that led to them, part of what led to them moving on from him, as well as them continuing to disappoint. So I'm not sure if maybe it could be just trying to throw him under the bus more or whatever it is, but that's something that's out there. But yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot what it was that you asked.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. That's right. Yeah, he's been very disappointing, and similarly to Brian Thomas, Brian Thomas had that big rookie year. Marvin Harrison Jr. actually had a pretty good rookie year, not as big as some of the other guys, obviously not the Malik Neighbors or the Brian Thomas Jr. level, but this last year was disappointing for them both. The issue with Brian Thomas Jr. is he just lacked the physicality. Drops became a bigger issue. Physicality from defensive backs was causing him, and he wasn't that explosive guy that he was as a rookie in 2024. And that led to some questions, and that led to them going out and getting Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington. So I do think that Brian Thomas is out there. I have questions with him in Denver because what he does is very similar to what you're getting out of Troy Franklin at this point. He is that more of a deep shot and and screen guy with trying to rely on that speed to pick something happen. Marvin Harrison Jr. is one that if he is available, I would be very intrigued by, just because I think that he is a type of player that Denver doesn't necessarily have right now, because he is one of those that such a versatile skill set that can work. I don't think they'll make him available. I think with the new staff, especially an offensive minded guy, I think it would have been more likely that they traded him if they went defensive minded, that they'll try to find and make him work. Year 3 is typically that catalyst for first round picks. And after year 3, when you have to make that decision on the 5th-year option, so is when that you might start hearing a little bit more about them being traded or moved. So I don't think he'll be made available via a trade yet, but maybe next year, if this is another disappointing season, if they do make him available again, I'd be very interested in Marvin Harrison Jr.
A few other names here, Eric, I'm going to toss out. I know we're talking free agents, but it devolves into trades, because that kind of feels like the path for the Broncos when it comes to wide receiver.
On that, I think Daniel Jeremiah even made a comment about that, about how if you want a receiver this year, it's either draft or trading for one, not the free agent market.
Yeah, especially with where Denver's at. Like if Denver needed, like I like that Romeo Dobbs as well, but if you didn't draft like Pat Bryant last season, you had a hole for a wide receiver 2 or 3 type. Like, yeah, that makes some sense to me. Now, granted, you're going to be paying premium for that player because of just where the wide receiver is at, but I just don't know if that makes so much sense. But I'll throw out 2 names here. I believe they are expiring contracts. Now, I think a lot of people, they don't have like you're not buying a Corvette or I don't even know what's a good car that people would be really excited about right now, Eric. I'm not a car guy. It's not a flashy move by any means, but I think this is good. These are 2 very good underrated players that are better than what the Broncos have right now outside of Cortland Sutton, and are young, and I think underrated on the whole. Michael Pittman Jr., I think he's going to be entering an expiring contract. He's got a little bit of inside-outside ability as well, because Alex Pierce is pretty much a deep route boundary receiver at this point. So Michael Pittman Jr., I think with all the issues that they've had and all the weapons that they have, if they're going to pay Alec Pierce, they're not going to pay Pittman. I don't think Pittman, I think he's on an expiring contract this year. I think this is year 4. I might be mistaken. The one I really wanted to bring up, Eric, everybody loves Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not the best wide receiver on his team. Michael Wilson is better than him. Michael Wilson is on an expiring contract. I just looked it up. So yeah, he's going to get a good contract, but he's underrated, man. He's really talented. Now, is he the one who they built, the plane out of, as I like to say? No, that's Trey McBride. Yeah, but I think those 2 are at least ones I'd toss out. I haven't heard anybody mention them connected to Denver or just the market in general. I have heard actually people mention Pittman as like a potential trade chip, given allocation of resources to Alec Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, et cetera, et cetera. But those are 2 that are at least interesting to me.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple Colts people throw out Michael Pittman Jr. as one as well that could potentially be moved, especially as they are supposedly trying to work on getting Alec Pierce back. Same people who threw out that Alec Pierce is looking for close to 30 million. I believe 26.4 was the actual number that one of them mentioned, and it was specific enough to kind of add a little bit more credence to it. But Michael Pittman Jr., 2026 is the last year of his deal. He signed a 3-year extension a couple of years ago in 2024. And so he is one that definitely does stand out a little bit. I wouldn't mind him at all. He's been productive. He's a big guy, 6'4", 220. And if Denver trades for him, it's still a little bit over 20 million that they would have to take on the books with the way his contract is. And the Colts, they are not eating a ton of dead money. They'd actually be freeing up $24 million by that, depending on what it is. It might actually end up being only 22 because there's a $2 million roster bonus that's coming due. And if the Colts have to pay that, they have to swallow that dead money. But they're still freeing up a lot of dead cap. I mean, he counts for 29 million, 22 or 24 million. That's still a lot that they're able to eat, are able to free up. So I wouldn't mind him. But Michael Wilson, I'm glad you mentioned him. He is one that really is intriguing. I liked him coming out of Stanford a few years ago.
Yes.
And I'm very intrigued by him. But he is another one. Same thing with Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think that they would let him go in a trade because, again, brought in an offensive-minded guy. They're going to work to figure out this offense. And when that happens, you don't typically trade away your weapons on offense to try to get things back on track.
And both of those names, Eric, are ones I come back to let's talk in October. Like if Broncos
Yeah.
haven't made a move
Oh,
and like, oh, well, this is an expiring contract. And I don't know about Pittman. I don't know if he signed or not. I can't exactly remember. He actually might be under contract, but Wilson is not. Michael Ronquillo coming in here says, good morning. Thank you for the 6 months of membership, Michael. Appreciate you. Got our guy, Patrick. Patrick, I'm out of coffee. And I have one more bag left of the vanilla macadamia. I'm also running low. He has these instant coffee packs, and I have it at the office, and I'm almost out of those too. So shout out to Patrick. I would be dead without him. Work has been kicking my butt. So been really living up. I didn't used to be a 1 p.m. coffee person, but I've been having to have one here recently because I've been struggling and work has been very busy. So we got Superfly talking about hard to be good on a bad offense, talking about Harrison needs a chance. I mean, again, we're talking about potentially trading him, but it's kind of been the Kyle Pitts conversation. Like he's so immensely talented and you still have him under cost control. Like unless somebody's offering you something you can't refuse. Like if Denver offered a first round pick for Marvin Harrison Jr. at this point, granted it's 30 overalls, maybe let's say 1 and 2, then they'd be like, okay, like we're recouping value here. But Denver probably shouldn't offer that from what we've seen from him so far. So it just makes more sense to hold on to him. Talking about free agents, though, Eric, we talked about Sutton being a pure boundary guy. I want to talk about some of these guys who potentially could fill in the little Jordan Humphrey role in free agency as well. And just mentioned him. Kyle Pitts. I know that they've been talked about, utilizing maybe the likes of in this past offseason, little Jordan Humphrey. Hey, why don't you move over to tight end and get a little bit more, 5 snaps a game in line or in the backfield, and that was the reason that he actually left Denver. He said, no, I'm a wide receiver, not a tight end. Kyle Pitts at least has some of that ability, and I know you have Evan Ingram here. Evan Ingram, even though his contract or whatever, he would not keep me from looking to improve the position to that level, in my opinion. Kyle Pitts is still only 24 years old. I think he is still extremely unique. I mean, there's probably only one of him in the NFL, like his type of skill set and athleticism. I don't know what's going on exactly, with the locker room and some of the up and down play, but tight ends can sometimes be like that. And I think Sean Payton would do an amazing job of isolating him for certain routes as well. So I think he could come in and be that little Jordan Humphrey, Evan Ingram role. Maybe not necessarily as much in the beating the zone coverage or the dump offs necessarily, but down the field, seam, matchup guy, splitting those 2 deep safety shells that have been such an issue. I mean, you watch him, you still see like, oh, the guy who went 4 overall is there. Like the talent, the uniqueness is there. I'm not sure. I think because he's a tight end, I would be shocked if he's not tagged. But I mean, I think he definitely intrigues me. And then the other one I wanted to toss out was Jawan Jennings, just because he is such a physical mofo and can play that big slot stuff and would fill in nicely. Now it does probably relegate Pat Bryant somewhat here, and Denver likes him. But again, you're looking to improve the room where you can. And if Pat Bryant beats him out or finds a different pathway forward, God bless. Snap the pool cue over your knee, and whoever gets out there gets out there.
Yeah, the rumors with Kyle Pitts is that the Falcons are going to tag him and then possibly look at trading him, similar to George Pickens. If not, just keep him on the tag and then go from there.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I would definitely be interested. And Evan Ingram's contract, it's not. You can't really get out of it. I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, you can cut him this year. You really can't. I don't think you don't save enough money against the salary cap to make it worth it for him to go play somewhere else. To where you're going to be paying most of his contract. You can get a little bit of a break on it for whatever he signs, but it's enough where Denver would be paying it, where they're just another team would just sign him to a veteran deal, and you're only getting about $1 million off that. It's just, I don't think it's worth it, even with what he did, and I think he was not good, to be nice about it. But he was also going in from having to learn a new system and a very complicated system that's been talked about a lot by current and former players with how complicated Sean Payton makes it. Maybe year 2 we get a little bit more out of him. Maybe there's a little bit more trust and chemistry there between him and Nick's. There's a lot that can go into it. I think Denver's going to stick with him, but Kyle Pitts still wouldn't whatever you do with Ingram doesn't take me out of that, because you can still do so much with Kyle Pitts and even get them on the field at the same time,
Mhm.
because Pitts offers up enough of that versatility with the different ways you can use him. And even Evan Ingram can offer up a little bit of that versatility there. And, by the end of the season, Ingram was only seeing about 20 snaps a game. So that shouldn't, keep you from going after it. It just makes it a little bit tougher when you're having to pay a contract to a guy. Same thing with George Pickens. You're gonna have to pay him a big contract, probably at top or near the top of their position, and trade for them. It always makes things a little bit more difficult. And then Juwan Jennings, he is an interesting one. Um, I'm not sure I would go that way after watching some of the 49ers games this year. He used to be, without a doubt, the best blocking receiver in the NFL. He was rather rough around the edges this last year. Definitely seems to be showing some declines. Injuries have become a big thing over the last couple of years. Um, so I'm just not sure if I would go that route with him, just because of, I think you'd just be better off sticking with Pat Bryant at this point and trying to get more out of him and getting him developed, and then eating into that snap count with somebody like Jennings, who is very clearly, in my opinion, on the decline with what we saw this last season.
And just bring it back to Pitts real quick. Like, you can add Pitts and he would change your offense. You still have to bring in a Y tight end. And
Yeah.
maybe it's bringing back Adam Troutman, but like you that role is not here right now. Like, you do not have that guy on here. I don't think Atkins necessarily has the length to live in line. And it's kind of the reason that, like, why do you mean? Like, Atkins is a good blocker. Tyler Warren's a pretty good blocker too, but the Colts were trying to figure out every single way to have him as a H back,
Yeah.
fullback, uh, F tight end, because he does not have the length to live in line, because edges are so long in the NFL. Like, you can be a good blocker in that way, but you're still not living in line. So there, it's probably one of the reasons Colston Loveland has the much higher ceiling. He actually, even though not as good of a blocker in college, his build means he can play Y, where Warren,
Yeah.
you ideally not living that way. So we got Peter Middleton coming in high from Singapore. Great to see you. With Superflies and free agent wide receiver classes and anything special. 2 or 3 guys are too expensive. Everyone else is basically what we already have. Yeah, that's very true. And we're already at 7:15, Eric. So we're gonna do the. Remember, we before had mock draft Monday. We'll be doing mock draft Monday, because we have not even talked about linebackers yet necessarily. And I know there's some people who, and we also, again, bringing back to wide receiver, why tight end. Denver has to walk away with a Y tight end. Now, your very obvious floor option here is bringing in back Adam Troutman. But I think the top of the market names to keep in mind are obviously David Njoku, who's going to be available. I know there's some like Twitter discourse recently, and like he's not involving like Evan Ingram in Njoku. But after like digging into that more, the thought was like moving on from Ingram for Njoku. No, you keep Ingram as your F move slot, tight end, and then Njoku can at least live as a Y. Very long player, one of the longest tight ends, I think, actually. And then you also have Dallas Goedert. Either of those guys would be awesome for me. I think your dark horse candidate, again, a little bit more upside. I think at the worst can bring you what Troutman brought this last season would be Daniel Bellinger. He does have a Davis Webb connection as well, former teammate as well. And I think that's a low risk, but still a pretty good ceiling. Not going to be a superstar tight end. How many are there actually? Like 5 at any given point. But he could definitely play Y and help your offense a good bit as well. So those are 3 names that stand out. I know there's some Cade Otton love as well. He can live as Y, but he's a little bit better as like a soft zone beater, a little bit more finesse player, where I think Denver wants a little bit more raucous blocking in line, personally.
Yeah. So I just did an article talking about 5 free agents at tight end, and I think at this point we've touched on every single one that I mentioned.
You didn't mention Isaiah Likely, because I know people want Likely, but it's like we're talking the
I didn't talk
Ingram
about Isaiah Likely
situation. Yeah, like I don't think he's got enough of a ceiling where you're talking about Kyle Pitts is in an own bucket. I don't think Likely's there. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Dallas Goedert, he at one point he used to be the guy that you would watch for blocking from the tight end position. He was just elite as a blocker. Last 2 years has been really rough. Part of that has been with slight change with how they've used him a little bit. So I'm really curious if they made that change because they started to see the decline as a blocker, and so they changed it up to get more out of him. I would still be very interested in him, seeing and trying to figure out what that is, and hope that it was just a thing of the issues that they've had with offense, especially this last year, with the play calling that they had. David Njoku, I think, is helps raise that floor a little bit in the room with the blocking. He can definitely work in line. Um, we had Kyle coming on and said he has a huge drop problem. Not really, not so much anymore. Drop passes, they're going to happen. But he only dropped 2 passes last year. He dropped 6 in 2024, but it was only 8.6 drop percent. And anything under 10 is decent, is good enough. Like you don't want over that 10% for it. But David Njoku, I think there's still, plenty there as a receiver. Had not as much production this last year, but that's because they brought in Harold Fannin Jr. and he ate into those targets a little bit and do his target share with how they're using him. So David Njoku really intrigues me. Dallas Goedert really intrigues me. I am not in on Cade Otton. I don't think that I think you get more from Evan Ingram being an inline blocker than you do Cade Otton. His blocking in line was awful. He can work. I think he can work in the slot as a blocker, but I don't think he offers much, if any, inline ability outside of trying to be a mismatch guy, lining up inline and on obvious passing situations, and trying to find the zone in from that inside alignment and working from there. But blocking, it's a no.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on Okoronkwo? I mean, he's again a little bit more of a move block piece. Maybe it's in that Atkins stuff, but he's an interesting one.
He's very similar to Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that route. Again, David Njoku, Dallas Goedert, those are the two guys, and then another guy you mentioned that I didn't talk about before, Daniel Bellinger. I mean, if you want a pretty good blocking on there, and I think he's the guy to go. Still won't need to see a little bit more as a receiver out of him, but he's had those flashes that you can bet on and trying to make more consistent throughout. I've seen a couple people shrug it off as like, oh, he's just another Adam Troutman. No, I think he's shown a lot more as a receiver in his limited reps than Adam Troutman did prior to coming to Denver during that time with the Saints. But again, Chigo, going back to the guy that you asked me about, he's just too similar to Evan Ingram for me to really look his way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got Salcedo coming in and says, you're getting the wrong version of you're getting no one, and the listeners are getting everyone. It smells like broken here, Raiders. So good luck. I like Fernando Mendoza, but that's a poverty franchise. So good luck with your bowl game atmosphere stadium. I don't typically talk smack, and that was, that's as PC as it gets. So shout out to you. You're welcome here. It's just, I mostly talk ball, but appreciate you coming. Linebackers for me, Eric. There's a lot of former Saints linebackers available. I'm personally most interested in Caden Ellis of the bunch, but you also have Demario Davis and Alex Anzalone. Anzalone's had the benefit of playing on next to the second best linebacker in all of football this last season, in former Iowa Hawkeye Jack Campbell, first team All-Pro. And also you have a really good defensive line in front of him, but he's interesting, only 31 years old. I'm not sure what his market will be. I really like Caden Ellis personally. You also have Demario Davis. I don't want to sign one of these ancient guys, Bobby Wagner, Demario Davis, Levante David. No, thank you. I want a little bit more rush ability from those guys. And I'm interested in, honestly, some ones who haven't necessarily been massive hits necessarily, but entering second contract with athleticism and rush ability. So Caden Ellis has hit third contract. He makes some sense to me. I'm also here for bringing back, if it's like 1 year, 5 million, or 2 year, 10 million, like bringing back Stranad / Singleton for that kind of contract doesn't bother me too much. But I am interested. I know he's been up and down, but he's still, body beautiful and a big athlete. And I would imagine he wouldn't cost very much. Quay Walker, when he's been healthy, he's got some ability and he's interesting to me. Also one that we've had some disagreements on. And I know he's an issue in coverage, but God, he's such a freaking bull in between the tackles and can be weaponized as a pass rusher. And that is Leo Chanel as well. And I'm expecting him to probably either stay in Kansas City or rejoin Jim Leonard. I could imagine, because Jim Leonard was very much involved in his ascension at Wisconsin or whatnot. But Chanel he's had actually some pretty good plays in coverage. It's rare. There's also some bad ones too, but he is such a powerful player. Like, he might be the singular strongest linebacker in football. And I know that when he came into the league, it was like, oh my gosh, this guy has no idea what he's doing in coverage. But I think he's at least, he's not going to totally kill you there at this point, and he can be weaponized as a blitzer as well. So I like Caden Ellis the most of the option. I think he's the steadiest. But if you're trying to think of like, okay, we can spend middle of the pack money on him, but like high ceiling still, like room to grow. Quay Walker, former first round pick, and also Leo Chanel interests me. I know there's been talk about Devin Lloyd. I think he's going to get paid way more than I'd be interested in paying personally. Good for him. I loved him coming out of Utah, but I'm not looking to spend the top linebacker contract this offseason personally. And then you also have Nakobe Dean, who, I don't know, Eric. I feel like people talk about him. I'm just not as impressed with him overall. But you can go ahead. I think he's fine, but the number 2, number 3 linebacker on the market, I don't know.
So it really depends on how you see. I don't think Denver will cut Dre Greenlaw at this point. Replacing, almost 2,000 snaps on defense from at the same position, it's really tough. And it's especially with the way the free agent market has bloated over the last year. This free agent or the draft class is good, but it's not great enough to where you're going to find 2 starters. So I expect Dre Greenlaw back. And it just depends, what do they want to pair with him? Do they want more of a downhill stack linebacker? Do they want to cover a guy? What do they want to go with him? And just judging based off of what they did in the playoffs, it seems they may want more of a coverage guy, because they were using Greenlaw in rundown situations. And when it was obvious, when the Patriots were running out the clock there late in the game, they were going to Greenlaw and not Cernod, and they were trusting Cernod in coverage. So going off of that, I think they would want coverage a little bit more. But if they do want a stack linebacker, I would be all aboard Leo Chenal. I think he is so good downhill between the tackles. He is a significant upgrade in that element over what you get from Alex Singleton. Taking on blocks, shedding blocks, working between the tackles, even sideline to sideline. I like Leo Chenal for that role. But coverage, he has some plays. Alex Singleton had some plays in coverage.
Yeah.
And I think that Denver is accustomed already to having to cover for poor linebacker play in coverage from Alex Singleton, that they would know how to do that with Leo Chenal. Quay Walker, Caden Ellis, those are guys that intrigue me as well. The one that really does intrigue me, and I know that a lot of people are going to probably get up in arms about this, Devin Bush, but because of his time in Pittsburgh and all that, it was really bad. But he has come on a lot over the last couple of years, and he had an outstanding season with the Cleveland Browns this last year. Very underrated linebacker who's hitting it. Very intrigues me a lot at this point of it. Again, he's one of those guys that I don't think will be too expensive because he has that rough history. But Devin Bush has been the player that a lot of people think Devin White has been over the last couple of years. Like, a lot of people look at the tackle totals of Devin White. No, he's great. No, he was actually really bad. And even some of the Raiders beat guys were talking about how bad he was openly on Twitter. Devin Bush, very under the radar, really changed what they were able to do, really helped bring along some of the other linebackers, and particularly the other starting line, Schweschinger, really helped bring him along. I don't think they'll bring him back. I think he'll hit the open market. He is probably, in terms of linebackers, he's probably top 3 for me and the guys that I would like to see Denver go get.
Interesting. That's a good call out. There's options for the Broncos at linebacker. I did want to make one more point before we close up shop here, Eric. You talked about keeping Greenlaw and him getting off the field. Could you cut Greenlaw and bring back Stranad for the same price as keeping Greenlaw in totality this season? Is that something that, I know that you're talking about replacing 2,000 snaps, but let's say you prefer the skill set of Stranad there overall, and you can bring back him with cutting Greenlaw. So I don't think necessarily it has to be, I'm with you that replacing all 3 linebackers is out of the question, but I know there's been some behind the scenes, maybe at least allegedly some behind the scenes, like frustration, with Greenlaw and the injuries, and maybe some regret with the contract and everything as well. But maybe you can move on from Greenlaw and retain Singleton or Stranad for the same price as just outright keeping Greenlaw, especially when you talk about, how you can move money around in that first year isn't typically as expensive. I think that's at least on the table. And we'll know a lot more coming out of the combine with that kind of conversation.
Yeah. So going into terms of replacing the snap count, all three of them, that's about 2,000 snaps. Replacing Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad as it is, it's about 1,800 snaps or 1,700 snaps. And then with replacing, having to replace just Greenlaw and Singleton, if they go that way, parting ways with Greenlaw, bringing back Strnad, that is about 1,400 snaps that they would have to replace. I would be fine with that, honestly. If they wanted to let Greenlaw go and they already got a deal done with Strnad, and I wouldn't part ways with Greenlaw until after you get that deal done with Strnad. I'd be fine with that. I do think there are some issues working downhill in between the tackles for Strnad as a run defender, but I don't think it's as significant of a drop off to what Greenlaw was doing there, to where you can justify, the 12 million or whatever it is in salary cap space allotted to Greenlaw. Because I think it's like 24 million, I think, between the next 2 years for Greenlaw.
So. Yeah.
So whatever it is, I don't think it's enough to where you can justify that. And if you go and get Strnad, and I think you're probably looking around 7 million on average per year basis for him, just with how the market has inflated over the last year, I would still be willing to do that, because I think Strnad opens up the door a lot more in the coverage area of it. And not only that, it's a lot easier to get those downhill stack linebackers than it is to get the cover guys. So if they are not trusting Greenlaw in coverage whatsoever, which really seems to be the case, it goes with a lot of what I've heard, then I would go retain the guy that can cover and go get a guy who can replace Singleton instead of the other way around, because cover guys from the linebacker position, they don't hit the open market.
What are your thoughts on Kyle Lewis?
The Pittsburgh Cat?
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan.
Okay. Can you play?
Huge fan of him.
Can you play in the box? I don't know.
He is
like more of a Nick and Man.
He is definitely a coverage bet linebacker that you are going to have to do everything you can to cover up when it comes to the run game.
It's hard for the one gapping defensive lines, Eric. Yeah. But we got Deanna Hendry again. I don't know if we got this other $50 super chat. Then we're going to wrap it up. Says, thanks all for the advice. Given me a lot to think about. We do need linebacker and rush, definitely. I like Strnad, but not sold on him. Happy Friday, everyone. We'll see. One of those three guys are going to be back. I think odds, if you're stacking odds right now, it would probably be Greenlaw the most likely, just because he's already here. But we'll find out. It'll be interesting how they remake that room this offseason. Been some conversation about the Broncos maybe moving a defensive back as well. We'll see if anything comes from that rather than paying them. So it'll be a lot of fun. But next Monday we'll be talking more draft. Eric, if maybe we'll go through some of the top mocks and who they've mocked to the Denver Broncos recently and do our own. But appreciate everyone coming in here, hanging out with us, all the super chats. You guys can follow Eric on X. Eric's at Eric Trickle. I'm at Nick Kendall MHH. We're also at Mile High Huddle. You can follow us at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share. Eric, a lot of fun today. We really dug into the free agent. The only position we really didn't get into was interior defensive line. It's not a really great crop of interior defensive line, and it's a pretty good draft as well. So we'll see what the Broncos do there as well. But yeah, running back, tight end, wide receiver, linebacker. I guess the one dark horse, Eric, before we get on out of here, safety, depending on what they want to do with Brandon Jones. That's one, and it's a good safety draft class too. But Brandon Jones with PJ Locke leaving, maybe you just bring back PJ Locke and move on from Jones. But that's the one that interests me the most right now. You're making faces at me. What's going on?
Well, I really thought that PJ Locke was the guy that was going to go look for a chance to start, but he made it very clear in his after season's, what is it called? The exit interviews, the exit interviews that they do. He made it very clear he wants to stay in Denver, and he's not necessarily looking for a chance to start. So I'm really interested. I don't think they'll move on from Brandon Jones with that. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they bring PJ Locke back and just run it back in the safety room. If that doesn't happen, I think they trust Devin Key to step up, and I don't think they really make a move at safety outside of adding a depth guy to try to keep the bottom of the thing churning. They're with JL Skinner and Devin Key, and oh, what's his face? They have another guy on the I think that they signed for to a futures deal. But if they do part ways with Brandon Jones, then I would really think that they do bring PJ Lock back and probably add somebody as that third safety to compete with PJ Lock for the starting job. But I don't expect that to happen. I don't think. But so that I mean, it's what you said. Safety is definitely that dark horse because it just right now it's not necessarily a need, but it could become one if depending on what they do with Brandon Jones.
Yep. Same with interior offensive line. That's probably a draft move as well. So appreciate everyone coming in here. We're gonna get on out of here. Some bonus contact. You guys have a great one. Happy President's Day coming up here. Happy Friday the 13th. Happy Valentine's Day, Eric. Happy Valentine's Day. Appreciate everyone. Enjoy Valentine's Days on the Super Bowl next year. So plan accordingly. maybe do the good deeds now. But appreciate everyone. Have a great one. We'll see you next Monday. Go Broncos.